What's going on, Fight Night Picks family? I am back with some more content for you guys. No fight this week, however, I thought to myself, why not make a matchmaking video post UFC 314? So that's what I'm going to do for you guys today. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and let's get some matchups made. So I'm going to go, in order of the UFC 314 card from the guys I was, either most impressed with or matches that I really do want to see. So to get it started, I'm going to go with Marco Tulio. Marco Tulio, he had that really impressive knockout over Tresean Gore. The striking was amazing. He did get hurt a little bit, but I am interested to see what the UFC is going to give him next. So, I took it upon myself putting on my matchmaker hat. I think I want to see Marco Tulio fight either Christian Leroy Duncan or Brad Tavares. So I'll start with the CLD fight. CLD, he's also a pretty clean striker. I think Tulio might have the power advantage, and he's looking to kill a lot more than CLD is. CLD's coming off, the victory over the Russian guy. Let me get his name up so I don't, mess it up for you all. But it was a domination. I would have liked for CLD to get a finish, but I'm more leaning towards, Marco Tulio possibly, finishing that fight if I have to, pick a winner for this, for my own matchmaking, I rather say. So CLD's coming off that win over Andre Puliev. Yes, he dominated him. Did not get the finish as I thought. He did press on the gas later in the third round, but I would have liked to see CLD get a finish. Marco Tulio, he was hurt or wobbled momentarily against Tresean Gore, but I think this is a really good, prospect versus prospect fight to see who will move up into possibly, a ranked opponent. CLD did lose against Gregory Rodriguez, who then went on to, get stopped by Jared Cannonier in his most recent fight. So I think, lining them up would definitely be a good match to see which prospect the UFC should push more. I really like that matchup. Striker versus striker definitely could be entertaining. Put it on, a pay-per-view, could be on the main card or either, the feature prelim of the night. I really like that matchup. So for the Brad Tavares fight, coming off that win against GM3, Tavares still is, he's still got some competition left in him. I don't think he's washed or anything like that. Yes, he's had some, some tough fights, some tough bangers. Did get, finished rather recently, but I think this would be a good test to give, Marco Tulio, a good veteran, see, exactly where you can put him up if you don't want to match him up with another prospect, a good veteran to, give him a different look. Brad Tavares could strike with him. I would definitely give the advantage to Tulio. It's definitely a winnable fight for Marco Tulio. But, Brad Tavares has been in there with pretty much everyone. Gregory Rodriguez, most of the fights he's lost. But Gregory Rodriguez, he beat Chris Weidman. DDP, went decision with DDP, fought Izzy, fought Edmund Shabazian, who's supposed to be like this striking, prospect. Has some more, or hasn't really lived up to his potential, but, he got knocked out by him. Brad Tavares has been there with just about anyone who's anyone. Robert Whitaker, Yoel Romero. So it'll be interesting to see, how he fares against Brad Tavares. Good veteran test, guy who's been in the UFC for a while, and he's not necessarily, washed or slowing. Well, he is slowing down, but he still can put up a valuable effort. Next up, we're going with Julian Erosa. I would match up Julian Erosa with either William Gomis or Cub Swanson. So with the Gomis fight, it'd be definitely be a interesting strikers battle. Gomis is more slick, likes to strike from the outside. Better, I would say he's the better kicker, and it could bounce him right back into conversations amongst the best of 45. After that loss against Hyder Emil, where he was just absolutely, pressured and walked down for majority of the fight. Did have some successful moments, but Hyder Emil, he was pretty much eating everything that he had coming at him. Ate a lot of big elbows. William Gomis is, he's still nasty on the feet. Juicy J, Julian Erosa, he's got pretty good boxing. I think it would be a very good strikers battle. Julian Erosa has said that he would like some ranked opposition. I don't think he's ready for the ranked opponent yet. He has been in the UFC for a while. He's got a lot of wins on his record, but I think he's more so of like a gatekeeper status. I don't think he's amongst the top 15 in the division. But I think I would give him William Gomis possibly to test exactly where he is amongst the younger guys. The thing is, be definitely you could put this on like a fight night card at the Apex, or maybe even like a fight night. How they're doing fight night Kansas City, Atlanta, somewhere amongst one of those cards. But Julian Erosa, William Gomis, I think that's a really fun fight, and I would definitely like to see it. Now for the Cub Swanson fight, again, it's another veteran. Cub Swanson's got some really good boxing. He's still dangerous. He did come off that split decision loss against Andre Fili. It was definitely a tough fight. Definitely had some success. He's still pretty much there. He did want to retire after the Billy Q fight, but after he knocked him out, he said, I got some more in me. So why not give him, Julian Erosa, who's another veteran. They can both see who's got the better boxing, and it could be Cub Swanson's final fight. I think Cub Swanson is live in that fight. I wouldn't necessarily write him off just because he's thinking about retirement. We just saw what he did against Billy Q. Billy Q's head movement and chin has been a little suspect, but Julian Erosa would he's dangerous too. He could submit him. He could possibly finish him on the feet, but I think it would be a really fun fight. So I would like to see that one go down as well. Next up, we're going with Virna Jandiroba. I know I've been giving you guys like 2 matches, but this one is pretty clear to me. Virna title shot versus Wei Li. Now, when I did the breakdown for Virna versus Yan Xiaonan, I did mention that if Virna won this fight, she should fight Wei Li, but I think Wei Li would probably beat her. The only issue is Wei Li hasn't fought someone who is either as skilled on the mat or even better than her on the mat as Virna could possibly be. I think Wei Li is definitely the better striker, and that would give Virna Jandiroba a lot of issues. But if she can get her hands on Wei Li and take her down, which will be another test within itself, because her wrestling defense is pretty solid. We just saw what she did to Tatiana Suarez. Definitely, ran through her basically. We saw what she did against I can't forget, Amanda Lemos. Domination, Yan Xiaonan, domination. So it'll be interesting to see if Virna could be the female to really give her some trouble. I know Rose knocked her out, but you saw what happened. In the rematch, Rose won again, but when she got the title against Carla Esparza, who won that fluky win against Rose, we saw just exactly how dominant Zhang Weili can be. So Virna versus Zhang Weili, that's the only fight to make. You don't make her fight Tatiana. Tatiana got walked down. So Virna versus Weili, that is the fight to make. That's the only fight to make for Virna Jandiroba. Next up, we're going with Dan Ige. It was a controversial stoppage over Sean Woodson, but I think he was on his way to get the knockout anyway. He started pushing the pace at the beginning of the 3rd round. Sean Woodson looked very uncomfortable. He was throwing a lot of peppering shots. I did not like that from him. He was not looking to kill. He was just there to, score. And Dan Ige, I told you guys, if he lands the shot, it can be lights out, and it definitely was about to be lights out for Sean Woodson. So, and Dan Ige's post-fight conference, he also mentioned that he would be interested to fight Patricio Pitbull. I think that's a pretty solid fight. Pitbull got walked down, or Pitbull got erased by Yair Rodriguez, I'll say. Definitely got styled on, beat up for 3 solid rounds. Had, a moment of success, but he was not ready for Yair Rodriguez. He looks to be slowing down, and I think he would not have, the same puzzle to figure out what Dan Ige that Yair Rodriguez is. Dan Ige likes to strike, primarily boxing, and I think Pitbull can handle the speed of Dan Ige. He's not the fastest guy, he's not the slowest guy, but he knows what to expect, whereas with Yair, he didn't know whether to expect the kicks, the leg kicks, the head kicks, punching in the pocket. you know what you're going to get with a Dan Ige fight. All he has to do is really worry about one weapon, and we will be able to see Dan or Patricio possibly in the rankings, which is what, the UFC wanted. They were definitely trying to set up the title shot with him versus Volk, but Yair said, no, I'm still here, and I'm here to stay. Dan Ige versus Patricio Pitbull is a solid fight. You could definitely sell it. And I feel as though, Dan Ige still needs to defend his ranking in the featherweight division. I want to give him someone ahead of him. So Patricio Pitbull, or I'm going to give him Steve Garcia, another surging contender. I think he's a lot more dangerous than, what Whitson did. Prior to, I would still say Steve Garcia is more dangerous. He's got a lot more. I believe he has more finishes on his record than Sean Whitson, but he is on a roll right now. He's coming off. Let me pull it up. I believe he's coming off a TKO over. Who did he just knock out? Kyle Nelson, Sang-Woo Chu, and he finished Marquise Costa, who is a 2-time Lock of the Week winner for me. Steve Garcia, he had that nasty loss to Mahachete. And who else finished him? I want to say he got finished at 55 rather recently. I can't find it. But Steve Garcia, he is on a run right now. He is ready for, the rankings. The Shalian Nordembeke finish was impressive. Finished him to the body, nasty. But he's got really crisp boxing. He's got the power to match with Dan Ige, I believe, and that would be a really fun fight. Another surging contender for Dan Ige to hold the spot against, or hold his ranking up against. He's still, to me, he's a gatekeeper at this point in his career. I don't see him making another title run. Dan Ige deserves to be in fun fights, and Steve Garcia will definitely be a fun fight for Dan Ige. So let's book that one, UFC. Next up, we're going with Dominic Reyes versus, I don't think this one's going to happen, but it would definitely be a dream come true, Yuri Prochazka 2. Yuri, he is the number 2 contender right now in the light heavyweight division. However, the only reason why I don't see that fight coming to fruition is because I think they're going to give Carlos Oberg a clear number 1 contender fight with Yuri, because that, the performance against Jan Blachowicz wasn't impressive enough to grant him a title shot. Jan had some success, but you could clearly tell that Carlos was just, I feel like if the fight would have went maybe 2 more rounds, Carlos was gonna pull away even further. It was still a close fight. You could have scored it 2-1 either way. I don't think it was a unanimous decision, but the UFC wants Carlos Oberg in the title picture. But like I said, that performance wasn't impressive enough. So, I'm rambling on about that fight, but I believe Carlos versus Yuri is the fight that they're going to book next. So I don't think Dominic will get that fight, but I would love to see Dominic get some revenge on Yuri. Does he do it? I don't know. He's making, this resurgence from, the past knockouts, Yuri, Jan, and Ryan Spann. So it'd be interesting to see, what, if he can, survive again, or survive this time around. It's crazy to think, Ryan Spann was on a 3 knockout loss streak. Now he's on a 3 knockout win streak. So he's definitely climbing his way back up. So if they don't, I don't think they're going to make that one. So I also have the winner of the Jamal Hill Khalil Rountree fight. That will be ideally what the UFC does. And then I can see if he starts as one of them and, they do Oberg Yuri, I could definitely see him being next in line for the title shot. I would prefer it to be Jamal Hill. I think he would have, I think he would have a better chance fighting Jamal than, than fighting Khalil. Khalil's a southpaw. I feel like he's had to deal with, more weapons in that fight. Jamal, he primarily likes to box. His footwork isn't the best. And I think Dominic would have some success in striking with Jamal Hill. Jamal likes to trade a lot. We just saw what Yuri Prohaska was able to do with him, and I think Dominic is a lot faster than Jamal. So I would definitely prefer Jamal to win that fight and Dominic versus Jamal. But if Khalil wins, that would definitely be interesting too. Dominic Scott, it seems like his chin is holding, and I'm hoping he'll be able to get back in the title picture. If he doesn't, it's still cool. I think he'll probably end up retiring if he takes another bad loss. But Dominic Reyes is on a resurgence, and I'm interested to see what the UFC gives him for his career. Next up, we are going John Silva versus. I think this fight, is easy to make. Depends on if the other guy is willing to take it. I'm going John Silva versus Brian Ortega. Now I do know Brian Ortega was talking about moving up to 55. I don't think he should. I think he would probably get handled at 55. Maybe 45 is a little too hard for him to make, but if he sticks around, I think this is a good fight for John Silva to test against, another grappler. Brian Ortega is not completely out of it on the feet, but I do see John Silva being able to rip his head apart worse than what, Diego did. Diego did sleep him in the first round, woke him right back up. But I think John Silva might rip T-City apart, and that'll definitely shoot him up to the title shot. I don't see them making John Silva versus Lerone or Aljo or, Yair or Diego. I believe the UFC is probably going to do Arnold Allen versus Lerone Murphy in the UK probably sometime this summer. That is, that would be a big fight night pay-per-view, or not a pay-per-view, but a big fight night for them. I could definitely see that happening. So I think, Brian Ortega, John Silva, to set him up for a title shot was definitely what should happen, what needs to happen, and give him another, dangerous grappler, or just give him the title shot. 5 finishes in the UFC, 5 straight wins, no losses. I know Movsar is probably going to be next, but Movsar does not have any finishes in the UFC. And the UFC likes exciting guys. They don't want to give Movsar a title shot when he's just, winning on the scorecards. It's not that impressive. You see what they did to Magomed Ankalaev. They did try to give him a title shot they gave him a title shot against Jan and went to a draw. So John Silva puts, people in the seats. So I think they'll end up doing that. Next up, we're going with Yair Rodriguez. Very impressive performance over Patricio Pitbull. Looks to be, looking for another title shot. And I think the fight to give him before the title, because I don't think he, necessarily earned it. He's only, one fight removed from the loss to Ortega, and then, got finished by Volk right before that in the title, in the championship fight to unify. I think you give him Yair versus Diego. The fight is already set up. The backstory set up. They got UFC Guadalajara coming in September. Perfect timeline. Both of them were fighting on the same card. Fight is super easy to make. Fight for who's the real Mexican fighter, because I know that's, Yair's biggest problem. And they already have the beef with the training partner. So super easy fight to make. I don't see why not. Everybody else would enjoy it. And it would be interesting to see how Diego, manages all of the different weapons that Yair is going to bring to him. And it'll also be, interesting to see how Yair is able to manage the pressure that Diego's going to bring. I think Diego's definitely going to look to probably grapple more than he did with Volk. And it'll definitely be a stepping stone victory for either one of them. Diego could take a shot, as we just clearly saw. And Yair still has some questions about him. It was a great victory over Patricio, but Patricio was old and aging and didn't utilize the grappling like he should have. So that's a very easy fight to make. I think both of them would accept it. They set it up basically at the press conference. So, and I should have stuck with my original pick of Yair versus Patricio. I don't know why I pick flipped. And look what ended up happening. He had absolutely, worked Patricio for 3 rounds, almost knocked him out. So salute to Yair, but I think you're gonna end up fighting Diego Lopez for a number 1 contender fight. So next up, we are going with Patty Pimblett. Now, at the time I'm recording this, this is post, the interview with Ilya Taporia on the Joe Rogan podcast. Ilya did mention that he would probably fight Patty in Spain, but I don't think the UFC is going to book that fight. I think they would like to, get Patty in the title picture some way or another. And I don't think they want to match him up with Ilya because Ilya will be fighting for the title. So if Ilya fights for the title, wins, then you have the fight. I don't think it's going to be his next fight, though. So what I'm going to do is Patty versus Arman Tsarukyan. They've already been trash talking each other. The wrestling exchanges should be very interesting. Patty looks really good. His wrestling looks really good. Of course, it was against Michael Chandler, who a lot of people might not rank that victory very high, but he was able to dominate Michael Chandler better than what Charles Oliveira did in his last fight. He finished him when Charles went decision, almost got finished himself. And who else did Michael Chandler go decision with? I believe it's Justin, right? Or was it Dustin? No, it was Justin. Justin. Jesus, Justin took him to a decision, right? Yep, Justin went decision. Excuse me. So Patty, he's on a run. He's undefeated in the UFC. What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 straight wins in the UFC. I know the Jared Gordon win was suspect. He definitely lost in a lot of people's opinion and in my opinion, but he's got to win. Or he won the fight on the scorecards. A lot of people believe that he's the Tony Ferguson, Bobby Green, and Michael Chandler has definitely been set up for Patty to fight these guys, so his stock can rise. So it'll be interesting to see how he mixes it up with the top 5 younger elite of the lightweight division. Arman Tsarukyan definitely gave up his title shot. I don't see them giving him the immediate rematch. Because for him to hurt his back the day of the fight was complete BS. So Arman versus Patty, easy fight to make because I believe, we all know Dustin versus Max is happening. Justin, I don't know what they do for Justin. I think Justin's going to sit out and wait to see who will be the next champion. I don't think they're giving Justin the immediate, title shot. I think he deserved it or deserves it. But I don't know. He's only one fight removed from getting, crushed by a featherweight. So I don't think they give it to Justin either. Maybe they do Justin Charles too. Maybe not. But I think what is going to happen is, I wrote it down. Sorry, I'm looking for it. I wrote Patty versus Arman, while Ilya and Islam fight, because that has to happen. Or you could do Patty versus Charles. Complete number 1 contender fight. I think Patty is live to finish Charles too. The wrestling definitely gives Charles a lot of issues. We saw it in the Islam fight. If Patty could get Charles down and control him, I think he can finish Charles Oliveira. And I think Charles is one fight. He needs one more fight to get in the title picture as well. Him almost getting finished against Michael Chandler definitely leaves a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. Yes, he was completely dominating Michael Chandler, but for him to almost be on the verge of losing, that's the last thing that people remember. So Patty versus Charles, definitely an interesting fight. I might lean Patty, honestly, because Charles is 30, 34, 35. Charles is 35. If they book it in the fall, he'll be, about to be 36. So Charles will be old, yes, but Charles still looks good. Interesting fight. I think I might lean Patty in both, honestly. I think Patty's better than Arman on the feet, and I think Patty has the wrestling advantage over Charles. But we have to see it against one of the elite of the lightweight division. So Patty versus Arman or Patty versus Charles do Bronx. Next up, I'm going with Michael Chandler. I know a lot of people think he should retire, but from his Twitter post today or Instagram, whatever it was, he said he's still gonna be fighting. So we gotta give Michael Chandler a fun fight. It can't be I think Chandler has to defend his ranking for sure. He's dropped to number 12, I believe now. So what we're gonna do Michael Chandler versus Mauricio Rufy. Uh, does Chandler take that fight? I think so, because he believes he has a chance in every fight, and he does have the wrestling. Does he use it? I don't know. He did use it against Patty early, ended up getting reversed, but I think Patty versus Rufy is the fight to make. That is definitely a pay-per-view fight. They that fight sells. You can't tell me that it doesn't, just because Chandler's getting finished left and right. Chandler versus Rufy sells. I would watch it. You would watch it. I'm not saying it could be the headliner or anything, but it could definitely be a co-main event. Need to see if Mauricio Rufy. The UFC definitely wants to set up Mauricio Rufy amongst the top 10 in the lightweight division. So why not give him anybody but Iron Michael Chandler, who is on the decline and needs to defend his ranking. I think that's the fight to make. I think it's super easy to make, and I can see it happening possibly the end of the summer. I don't think Chandler's going to take too much time off. He wasn't dazed or anything. He just got pummeled on. I see him. He's a warrior. I gotta respect his heart. He's got a lot of heart. He doesn't quit on himself. Just fought the better man that day. As he said, he was never beat. He was bested. So Michael Chandler versus Mauricio Rufy, or you give him the Benoit Saint Denis Joel Alvarez winner. Like I said, I feel like he needs to defend his ranking. BSD, I believe, is ranked like 15. Joel Alvarez, is Joel ranked? He might be. Let me see. I think Joel isn't ranked, and BSD is somehow. Got finished twice in a row. Let's see. Let me run it. Tapology doesn't, have the correct rankings. So okay, so Joel is 15 and BSD is 13. But still, I think the winner of that fight could definitely end up fighting Michael Chandler. Another, both of those guys are surgeon. Well, not BSD so much, but I believe Joel Alvarez finishes BSD as well, and BSD is getting up out of here. But Rufy, Joel Alvarez, both are live to finish Michael Chandler. I believe they will possibly retire him. Michael Chandler's tough as a dog, though. So, like I said, he's got the wrestling credentials. He could definitely make the fight entertaining. Does he win? I don't think so, but I would like to see it. And I'll give him one more. I think it's time to give him what he's been asking for. Michael Chandler versus Conor McGregor. If Conor McGregor could possibly, make it back into the USADA testing and possibly, make it for the end of the year, Michael Chandler, Conor McGregor, pay-per-view, MSG, that could be on like the Tom Aspinall, John Jones fight card if that happens later this year, which I believe it will, just depending on when. But Michael Chandler, Conor McGregor, and John Jones on the same fight card, Dana White would have, a party, a snow party, if you know what I'm talking about. Give him what he's asking for. Give him what he's, been asking for since he got to the UFC. And you need to, close up the Ultimate Fighter. So Conor McGregor could somehow get his wits about himself, put down, the stuff and stop partying. I think he definitely fight Chandler now that he's on this skid and he's been getting finished left and right. So Conor McGregor, BSD Alvarez winner, or Mauricio Rufy. And to end the video, we are going to go with Alexander Volkanovski. Now, Volk does have some damage. I think he will end up taking a lot of time off, or not a lot of time, but he did say he wanted to fight 2 times this year. I think it's more likely that he ends up fighting once. He's got some, the eye was damaged, and I think they said he broke his hand or something. Something was going on. So I believe he'll only fight 1 time this year, and it'll probably end up being against Movsar. He called for the fight as well when he got back to Australia. He did an interview and he said it would be good for his legacy to take Movsar's O. So I believe that fight ends up getting booked, or you make Movsar fight Lerone Murphy for the #1 contender, and we'll see who comes out of that. And then by that time, Volk will be healed up and ready to fight whoever is the number one, the clear number one contender. I feel like Lerone versus Murphy definitely makes a lot of sense. You have to do it in the summer though. That has to be booked, or at least be working on getting booked now or late May. The latest, because we also have UFC Guadalajara, where Yair versus Diego is definitely gonna happen. I believe it, and I will stand on that. I think that's gonna happen. So Mozart versus Murphy, you could do that, and excuse me, that could definitely be on the UK card as well. Mozart versus Murphy, number one contender. Make that a fight night for London, and whoever wins that is the clear number one to fight Volk, possibly like the week after the Guadalajara fight card. I do know Volk wants to fight in Australia. I don't think UFC has anything set up for Australia yet, but if they don't, I think Volk could beat Mozart. I think his takedown defense is solid enough. He's been in there with Islam, and he held his own for a majority of the fight. Mozart does not look to finish. He doesn't. He threw a few submission attempts in a couple of his fights, but he hasn't finished anyone in the UFC. I think Volk will possibly get him on his back and rain down some big blows. I can see Mozart throwing up like a triangle or arm bar from from his back, but I might lean Volk in that fight. Mozart is not that on the feet. I think Volk is a little quicker. I think he might have some more power still. The only thing would be if Mozart just takes him down to control him for majority of the fight, which I don't see happening, honestly. If Volk is back, and he looked good, he did get clipped against Diego, but Volk is back. I believe he is, and I think I would edge Volk versus Volk in a fight with Mozart. So make Mozart fight Lerone Murphy for a true number one. He did say he would sit on the sidelines and wait until he gets a title shot, but things don't come to guys who wait around and have not, they don't have the resume necessarily to earn a title shot. So Volk versus the winner of Mozart versus Murphy, and I like the sounding of that versus just giving Mozart a clear title shot. Let me know what you guys thought about these matchups, though. I'm interested to hear your feedback. Did you like Dominic Reyes versus Yeri 2? What do you think Mozart gets a clear title shot? Do you think Chandler should fight going back, or do you put him in a fight with like Dan Hooker or something like that? Let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I will catch you guys for UFC Kansas City. I'm already starting to work on my predictions for that one. I got a friend fighting on that card, Malcolm Wellmaker, Wilder the Machine. Make sure you guys tune into that. That card is going to be a banger. I'm excited for it, and I can't wait to give you guys my predictions. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next one.